package arrived at the end of February 2023 and contains a horse that I already have in my collection. This is Botticelli from the Princess Collection series from 2003. I was tempted to buy a second copy of the same model because this horse has its original hair preserved, which happens very rarely. The horse is in good condition, but what I am most happy about is the hair. It is original and no one trimmed it. This is Bottie's original hair. So far it is very rough to the touch and very tangled, which is clearly visible. The paint is chipped here and there, but nothing major. The hooves as the elements in contact with the ground are slightly abraded. This horse, like Lila from the same series, does not have horseshoes. The saddle is incomplete. The element that holds the doll in place is missing. There are also a few scratches on the plastic. I was a bit scared by the foil ring on the back leg. I thought the leg was broken there and it was some form of protection and straightening of the gluing area. However, it turned out that this clamp was loose and who knows, maybe it came from the original packaging. It could have been used to attach the tail when the horse was in the box. And this is my first Botticelli. It came to me in October 2022. It has visible discoloration caused by contact with the sun. The saddle is complete. When it comes to the hair, I can say there is no hair actually. The paint is in much worse condition and has many defects. The shading of the first body is more pale and there is less of it. So this time I will deal with these twins. This time I will use washing powder. Both horses are quite dirty. I will wash Bottie the First. I mainly focus on the plastic and try to clean it thoroughly. Saddles also require thorough cleaning. Time for the second Bottie. One last look before botting. Here we go, hair first. I will get this foil off the leg. As with the first one, I clean the plastic thoroughly. After washing, I immediately started combing his matted hair. The tail was my first choice because it consists of less hair and I thought it would be a good for a warm-up. Here is the mane before combing. In this photo you can already see the first effects of my hard work, and that was just the beginning. Finally, the dreadlocks were gone. It was 4 days of very intense work. Combing was a very time-consuming process. In the case of this horse, I also use a lot of hair and fabric conditioners, which I use alternately while combing. After drying, another problem has appeared. The hair was so frizzy that even leaving it without touching would get it tangled. It required immediate straightening. Without it, there was no chance for it to return to normal. Before I could treat the hair with my crimper, yes, I still don't have a straightener, I first had to get rid of the remains of the conditioners, so the horse had to be washed again. This time I focused only on the hair. After washing it, I rinse it thoroughly. Then I started rinsing it with hot and cold water. The tap water is not very hot, so I brought a container in which I soaked the hair in boiled water. I waited a while and started rinsing the hair in cold water. Then I soak it in hot water again and rinse it with cold water. Finally, I poured hot water and rinsed the hair again. The tail could be combed well, while the mane still put up fierce resistance to the rarest brush I found at home. The bent ends effectively tangled with each other.
Now my mind is blown, no surprise. guess I should have known. Oh, my mind, now my mind is blown. No surprise, guess I should have known. You got control of me, break my barricades. Walls are crumbling grounds, they shake. You came to save, but it's way too late. Every single time you stay, I cave.
Unfortunately, despite my passion for untangling, after half the mane I gave up the idea of pre-combing the hair. It was like Sisyphean task. After combing the hair, the ends immediately became tangled with each other. So I started fighting with straightening. I didn't want to cut the ends too much because I wanted the hair to be as close to its original length as possible. That's why I didn't give up and fought for every millimeter. The film shows quite a long battle for a single strand. With each subsequent strand, the fight looked similar.
Now my mind is blown. No surprise, guess I should have known. Oh, now my mind is blown. No surprise, guess I should have known. You got control of me, break my barricades. Walls are crumbling grounds, they shake. You came to save, but it's way too late. Every single time you stay, I cave. You got control of me, break my barricades. Walls are crumbling. Every single time you say I cave. You got control of me, break my barricades. Walls are crumbling. Every single time you say I cave.
In this photo, you can already see the first effects of straightening the mane. Here the mane is straightened for the first time, the tail is still intact. In front of the horse you can see the waste from combing. This is broken hair that had to be combed out. The mane has been straightened twice, the tail after the first time. These photos were taken after another 4 days of very intense work on straightening the hair. As a result, I don't know how many times they were straightened. I lost count at about 6. The difference is significant. In the meantime, I repaired the incomplete saddle. I made the missing element of modeling clay, I hardened it and painted with paint and varnish. I followed the example of the first saddles of this type, where this element, a pommel, had shorter arms and was set in a different direction. Everything turned out almost perfect. I installed the new pommel in the saddle using glue. As in the case of the prince, I wanted the bodies to have accessories as close to the original ones as it could be, although slightly different, because I think that the horses from this series were quite poorly equipped. First, I needed to recreate the saddle pads. I contacted my friend who also collects, restores and repaints Barbie horses. I knew that she had horses from this series and asked her for a photo or scan of the saddle pad of one of them. To my surprise, she sent me a photo taken on a mat with a scale. Thanks to this, after enlarging it, I received the saddle pad pattern in its original size. After printing, I cut out the base of the saddle pad and thus obtained a form for the pattern. Before my friend sent me a photo of the saddle pad, I tried and drew my own shape based on the photos. It turns out that it practically matches the original, so even without a photo able to recreate the correct shape and size. But I wanted to make it as close to the original as I could, so I would like to thank Pingelinchen for help. I've prepared two fabrics. In the original, one side is like fleece fabric, soft and slightly fluffy. On the other hand, there is a fabric similar to satin, slippery, thin and shiny. I will replace the bottom part, the fleece one, with this short white fox fur. As for the top part, I found a fabric that matches the original, and I will use this satin fabric to make the top. I start by tracing the pattern on the first fabric. I fold the fabric right side inwards. I pin it with pins so that nothing falls apart. I use a saddle pad pattern folded in half so that the back of the folded fabric is lined with the back of the folded pattern. And I trace it. First I mark a line according to the saddle pad pattern, but I have to remember to cut out my saddle pad with a seam allowance. So I will draw a second line along which I will cut out this part of the saddle pad. Using a marker like this for tracing patterns isn't a smart move, but I grabbed the first writing thing I had on hand. Now I need to trace the pattern onto the second fabric. I didn't check aerial in which direction the fabric stretches to know how to fold it. I check whether the pattern fits on the fabric folded along the long side. It's okay. I fold the fabric evenly and pin it with pins. I trace the pattern again and add a seam allowance. It's time to cut out both parts of the saddle pad. Now I fold them right sides together and pin them in place. I sewed both parts of the saddle pad together off camera. And here we go, here is my first saddle pad. There is still a hole here. I left this part so that I could turn the saddle pad from left to right side. Now I can finish this seam. Here I have prepared tulle from which I will make a ruffle, just like in the original. I will finish the seam with a silver string so that it is not so visible. There is white fabric underneath, so the white thread I plan to use will not be visible from this side. As you can see, the ruffle is ready. I haven't cut the thread yet because I decided to sew on the lace. I had to bleach it first because it was beige. Now it looks more like white. I still need to iron it. I didn't give up on the string either. It will be on the lace. In the original, there were straps on the sides of the saddle pad that were fastened on the belly with a velcro. Of course, they will also be in my version of the saddle pad. I need to measure and prepare the ribbon I will use to make them. I will cut the ribbon in half. This piece will be enough for both sides. As you can see, the lace is already sewn on. I also added strings, sequins and beads. Now it's time to attach the straps. First I will protect the ribbon against fraying and unraveling by gently burning its ends. And I sew it to the lower part of the saddle pad so that the seam does not extend to the upper part. So one string is sewn on, then the second one, and finally the velcro. Time for hair clips. They will consist of several elements. I am preparing a small fan made of lace, the same one I used for the saddle pad. I will attach the lace to a larger tulle fan. I prepared the lower part earlier. I will use a piece of transparent plastic as the base for the decoration. First I glue the fans. Now I glue decorative beads onto the lace. I will add a shiny rhinestone in the same shape to the heart. The heart will be in the center. This is what the finished hair clip looks like. I am on to the next one. I am trimming the lace. I secure its edges. I am making two fans for the next two clips. I make a lower bow. I tie a silver string and secure it with a gentle burn to prevent it from splitting. I am preparing a plastic base, a hard bead, I apply glue to the base. I glue the fans. Here I have to glue them a little more because the lace sticks out too much from the tulle. I apply glue to the lower part of the base and glue the bow. Then I glue the beads. I thread beads onto the strings. Secure them and trim. I attach the decoration to the clip. I attach the clip to the cardboard sleeve and apply glitter glue to the tulle. I applied this glue to the tulle of the saddle pads in the same way. This is how two sets of decorations were created. The hair clips differ slightly in the arrangement of beads and pendants. For one set, I made hearts of modeling clay, which I later painted with silver paint and varnish. I curled the hair of the second booty so that it would safely survive the next stage of repainting. I started by preparing paint to fill the gaps on the hoofs. Matching paint is not easy, it is difficult to find the right shade. When the paint dried and covered all the holes, it was time to add glitter. I managed to find such a thing, it's called acrylic paint, although I don't know whether the transparent paint is still a paint or a varnish. Either way, this clear acrylic medium contained the same glitter as the original on the hoofs. To get a satisfactory effect, I had to apply several layers of it. After adding paint and glitter to the hoofs, I added pearl pink paint for the markings. To make the effect aesthetic, I applied the paint quite diluted. It also required a lot of layers. To speed up the work a bit, after all I had 2 horses to renovate and I painted them alternately. I dried the layers using a small hair dryers. I didn't record how I renewed the eyes. It looked similar but required even more precision, especially when applying eyelashes. Once the painting effect was satisfactory, it was time to apply several layers of acrylic varnish on the hoofs and eyes. After painting, it was time for the first Bottie's hair. To install new ones, first I need to dismantle the remains of the old ones. Bottie didn't want to open to me, so I decided to replace his hair without taking him apart. Pulling out the mane wasn't easy at all. Botticelli is another horse from both the Barbie movie and the Princess Collection series. He appears in the 2002 movie Barbie as Rapunzel. It is called Rapunzel horse, but it didn't belong to her and did not even exist in the original version of this fairy tale. It was created by the creators of the Barbie animation, perhaps because in every fairy tale with a prince there must also be his horse. Botticelli in the movie resembles a real horse. He is probably grey or pearl because he has a white marking on his head and his hooves are black. But this is just a fairy tale. His mane and tail are golden blonde and natural length. He looks much better than the movie version of Lila. He was probably named after the Italian early Renaissance artist Sandro Botticelli, but unfortunately I don't know why. Now let's move on to the toy incarnations. The first horse associated with the character of Rapunzel appears in 1998 in a set with a carriage. He doesn't look much like our Bottie. He is Perlino, i.e. pearly, and has golden hair. The mane is of standard length, the tail looks quite long. In the year of the movie's release, another horse and carriage set appears. This time the horse is silver, pearl with golden hooves. Its mane and tail are probably the longest of all Barbie horses. In 2003, the model from this video appeared in the Princess Collection series, which was also called Fairy Tales or Fantasy Tales. Like other horses in this series, Lila and Marzipan, there is no harness, no horseshoes, only a saddle pad, saddle and hair clips. To complete the story of this horse, it should be mentioned that it also appears in the Tea Party series from 2004, also in the company of Lila and Marzipan. The tail didn't want to give up either. long struggle, I finally managed to pull out the safety wire. After removing it, the tail immediately gave up. This is what the booty looked like without hair. I prepared the hair for the tail in advance. After analyzing this situation, I decided that it would be attached similarly to Elsa's. That is, it would not be threaded through the internal bar, but only pressed in. This horse will probably no longer be a toy, so it does not need to have an armored tail. Instead of a safety plastic tie, I decided to use a rubber band. This is a unique tail because it will be very long, and I also wanted it to be quite thick. And here is the finished tail. It came out really long. After combing it, I braided it so that it wouldn't get tangled while assembling the mane. I make the mane using the same technique as in the cases of Wavy and Lucy. I combine individual strands into main parts. I decided that 2 parts would be enough. I secured the joints with glue on both sides. Time to assemble. And the mane is ready. Finally, I will style it using the hot air of a hairdryer. Let's take a look at the eye painting, what it looked like before and after the renovation. Time for a before and after comparison. While working on these horses, I simply called them Bottie the First and Bottie the Second. Then, when I was processing the photos, I came up with ideas for the names, and so the first Bottie was named Goldie due to his hair color, and the second Bottie Blondie. Due to the amount of work which I put into combing and straightening Blondie's hair, I wasn't sure if I want to recreate the original hairstyle of this model. However, after a few days of reflection, I broke down and decided that without this course, they would not be charming. I planned that before returning them to the stable, that is my warehouse, I would wash the hair once more, straighten it, and after securing it against tangles again, they would go to rest. Blondie's curls were created by curling hair in curlers, while Goldie's curls was made using a curling dryer. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to my channel, soon there will be another video about another beautiful horse.